Mm. So, welcome to the first Vienna of 2024. Thanks for the organizer to let me talk today. I will make a quick introduction, and my talk is um, based around the first project I made with SvelteKit, and I would like to share my experience with it, what I found might be useful for people to use, and basically to share my own experience. Um, so perhaps you noticed with this crazy introduction, but I'm an interactive developer. So basically, what does it mean? I do front-end development, except I focus a lot on like interaction and animation on a website, which means if there is any backend developer in the room, it won't be so much interesting for you. But who knows? Anyway, so like yeah, I studied in France, and I'm freelancing for 5 years now. And I came in Vienna. I arrived in Vienna 5 years ago. Um, and as I said, I work with agencies both in Austria, in Germany, and most of the time in France because I'm French. So that's quite convenient. And I make website mostly like portfolio or interactive website for like a museum, for a special event, for something that needs a little bit more artistic and visual. Uh, Sorry? Yeah, visual touch overall. And for all of those projects, usually so far I used Next.js. But now I decided to switch. But why did I decided to switch to SvelteKit now? So yeah. So after coming here like 2-3 times, I felt I should give it a try. And I also find that when I use React for interactive website, it can be a bit pain in the ass, because if you don't really know when like the DOM is rendered and when it's not, if you can't control all the parameters, and sometimes you feel it's a big black magic box, then it gets hard that you have an animation popping and then suddenly it doesn't work because the element is already out of the DOM and so on. And so when I started to look a bit into SvelteKit, it felt like those problematics could be solved, and I felt I would give it a try. And I also had like an opportunity to work on a small project for a colleague who is a graphic designer. So there is not a big scope, but it was the opportunity for me to use SvelteKit there. So the project, the stack of the project is based on SvelteKit, of course, on Sanity. So that's a headless CMS. That's really convenient. Does anybody of you used it before or heard about it before? Okay, so like it's really convenient for developers because you build the whole CMS just in the code directly, and like the big advantage of it is the query language to get the content. So you can directly get the fields that you want, and you can make like work them or like work the objects that you receive. So what you get in the front end is like a really nice object that you can work with that's already been treated and so on. And like their query language is called Grok, and it's really powerful. So I can only recommend to use it. I use GZAP, so that's like a JavaScript animation library, and also 3GS, so it's a library to do WebGL, so 3D on the web. I can now show you, like, give you an overview of the website. Nice. I will just, I worked, I have to do it like that. So I hope the internet is still working, yeah. So in terms of content, it's like a portfolio where you have different projects that the designer worked with. It's like a nice gallery. Whenever you go to a project, you can see more information, a little bit of content, like some different images, and directly see like some credits when it's been worked with other people, and you can also discover further projects and navigate through the projects. There is a shop, but I won't talk about this because it's only like hosted on externally on some Squarespace, so it's not really relevant here. And yeah, like all other pages are like content images. So everything is coming from Sanity. And I also, everything is aligned on the grid because yeah, designers love grid. So when it's perfectly aligned, it's even better. So as you can see, it's like pretty small project.
How did you turn on and off this thing? The line.
I press G, yeah, the G keyboard like grid.
Okay.
So whenever like the designer, I share the website to like the client.
I didn't know it exists. That's why.
No, but it's custom. It's
okay.
not yeah.
When you work with enough of designers, you learn that you need this.
It's custom because it's based on like the grid settings that I set up at the beginning, and so it's just like an overview, and then usually I disable it when I go into production, but yeah, it depends. And there is also like a small archive page for all like previous work that she did, and you can like browse through it. And yeah, so like pretty simple website. So it's like really convenient to start to use SvelteKit with it. Nice. So I use it with I set it up with like the basic command line interface to create a SvelteKit project. I decided to put like all my folders into the lib folder because when you import them with SvelteKit, you have this $lib, and it's like always targeting whatever is in this folder. So it's convenient to quickly access to everything else. And what I want to share also is like a few use cases that I encountered when I did the project and that might be relevant. And we will see together how to use SvelteKit to tackle those problematics. And the first one is using client-side viewport size. So when you do front-end development and more interactive website, you should always be aware of like the size of the viewport that you're using to keep like both like the CSS and the JavaScript synchronized. So you always have the same grid to detect if you're in a mobile device or not. And also you might need to know like the size of the window in many components, but you don't want to add like an event listener in each of those components. So you put it in like a store, which I will show you on the code, and then it's only called one time and you can use it everywhere. Yes. Okay, so what I did here, is it big enough? I will just, yeah, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I did here is I used the readable function of the Svelte store because it's not something that I want to set myself as a user because it's depending only on the viewport. I pass in like a base default value for the server side because of course on the server side we don't have access to the window. So to make sure nothing breaks, I have like default values. And in the start function, I have I check if I'm on like the client side, and only if I'm on the client side, I had like an event listener on the window resize, okay, which is calling handle resize, and basically it sets all my store to those parameters, which are based like on the window width or height, depending on what I want. I said previously that I use the JavaScript grid, so this is why I have like those kind of values to know like how much how wide is a column or something, and when I resize, everything gets updated. Yeah, and then like I call also in the stop function. So if nobody is listening to this store anymore, I remove like the event listener, so it's cleaned up properly. Yeah. So this is how I use like the viewport store. So every component is also all the time aware of the size of the viewport. The second one is I added lazy loading to the assets. So using a Svelte action. So Svelte action, it's a function when you attach it to a component. It's a function that takes this node in parameter, and it's running when it's mounted. And it's in my case, it was really relevant for lazy loading assets. So I don't want all the sets that are out of view to be loaded directly. And I want only, probably you saw on the website, my mouse, all right. You saw on the website, if I go to like an image, you can see that, I mean, now everything is loaded because I loaded them before, but so what I do is I load first a low quality version of the image, and when it's coming to the viewport, I load the full image, and then I replace it dynamically with JavaScript. So if I go back here, like perhaps, okay, yeah. So this is cached, but like you can see that it's loading when the more I browse, it's loading. So like it keeps the page to be able to load fast, and then you don't have so much image loading in the background that you can see. So it's smoothing the user experience. And in order to do this, let's find the mouse. Okay. In order to do this, I have a component that's called a sync image. It's taking like a cover as props. The cover contains the URL of the final image, and also like it's like a base 64 URL of a low quality image placeholder. And what I do is, so like the first source of the image is this placeholder, and when I use the lazy load, I tell my lazy load observer to observe this node, and once it's entering into the viewport, I replace like the source with this the final URL that I have here. For those who don't know what's the intersection observer, it's you tell like the windows to look. You look into like a node, and if the node is intersecting in the viewport, depending like some root margin that you put. So for now, it means like if it's 600 pixel under the DOM, under the viewport, let's say, like let's say the image is here 600 pixel below, it will start. It will be triggered. So when I get the node, I get the final URL in the SRC. I create a new image. I create a new image. I put the URL, the final URL in this image, and when it's loaded, I change like the SRC of the node into the URL, and then like the image pops in. So yeah, this is like how to use only using an action. So when it's mounted, I have like the proper images that's shown.
What's priority loading?
Priority loading, it's like it's a props I can pass. So whenever I want an image not to have this low quality and then a nice image.
Things on the top, maybe.
Yeah. For example, yeah. Then I can pass this props, and it will be like the lazy load will be deactivated directly. So I can have like control over if it's shown or not. Something that I realized, and I will talk about it now, is, for example, I have this component, okay? I have an image in it. It already lazy load, and it's happening once the component is mounted. Whenever it receives a new cover, the action won't be triggered because it's triggered only once the component is mounted. And what I realize is if one of the options that you pass to your action is updated, then like the function that you have then your action will be updated again. And this is what I did here. So I put my observer into a function. It's called first because of when it's mounted, and then in the return function I have like a cleanup and also an update. So whenever one of the option here is updated, like this gets triggered once again. So it allows me to have only one component, and if like the image changed over the time, then the action is retriggered again. Something interesting I can show. So this low quality image is sent to me by Sanity. Okay, whenever like the client put an image into an image field, I can query both the URL and also like a low quality of this image. It's not something I do or the client does. It's already integrated in the CMS. That's why I can have both and do all of this process right there. Something I can show that's relevant to both the lazy loading here and the store is, let me find where I put it somewhere, into the component. Okay, for example here. So don't care about the warning. This is still work in progress. So I have I use this component that I had presented before, the async image, and I pass as the cover the low quality and also a final URL. What I can do with Sanity is I can build the URL of the asset, so I can crop it on the fly to use like a smaller image and not, for example, on mobile to have a super big image because you never can control what the client upload. So this is kind of, it's a helper to prevent it. So I have a function that I can use where I pass the final URL, I pass it the width that I want, the device pixel ratio of the device, and then it's generating me at the end a full URL of it. And like the image width that I have here is a little helper that I built, which is based both on the viewport that I presented before, and I get the size if on desktop I want it to be on 2 column, tablet 3 column, and mobile 4 column. So it already knows the exact pixel and value of the image that I need. So I am sure to always load like pixel perfect images. And whenever, perhaps some of you can ask, whenever you resize the window, what happens? So whenever you resize the window, of course, this gets set, and all like the image width changes as well. That's why it's debounced. So every 100 milliseconds, like this new images will be called. Of course, I can enhance it later. So if you load the bigger image and then you get smaller, the image doesn't get refetched again because it doesn't make sense. Something that you usually want when you build a interactive portfolio is like the page transition. So when you go from one page to the other, you want that you have a fade in, fade out, or like some animation, and not something like that's just not really nice to use. And it's also smoother for the user experience to have nice page transition. This is where like on navigating comes in. So in SvelteKit, on navigating is a function that you can that gets called whenever you change route, either from a page or from a component as well. It doesn't need to be in a page. And if you return a promise to it. It will wait until that promise is fulfilled until switching to the page. So that allows you to build a complex animation or out animation. You put it in a promise, and when your animation is finished, then you can switch to another page. And this is something that I did. That you can see here. If I go back to the portfolio, if I switch the page, you have a out animation. And when it's out, it's changing the route, and you arrive to another page. And in terms of code, it's behaving like this. So I have a on navigate function that's directly called from app navigation. So it's a built-in function from SvelteKit. And I check if I'm really like going out of the home, then I return like this WebGL app where I handle all my 3D assets, my 3D scene, and I call transition out, which is a promise. And once it's finished, then like, of course, the promise is fulfilled, it's returned, and then you can switch to the next page. I made this here, and I made this also for another page. So all the project page, it's always like /project/ the slug of the project. And I had the issue where I go from this page to another project, then it doesn't get triggered. And actually, when I see, so I had to flag it. And whenever I have the navigation, if it's the same slug, for example, if you just reload the page, then it doesn't get triggered. And then I check if I'm also going out of the page, then it's the same. I'm returning like a gzap function, so it's the animation library, and then I have like some parameters to animate it out. And this is what you can see if I go from one project to another. Yeah, it's like fading in, fading out. So it's quite convenient to build some nice effects, some transition. What I did here is rather simple, but you can see only based on a promise, you can build really complex stuff. Yeah, here we go. The last use case I want to talk about is like the in function. So it's in SvelteKit, it's whenever an element is added to the DOM, then you can run a function. And it's nice when you have some effects when you are clicking on a button and something has to pop in, then you can control what animation you want to play. I mean, whatever function you want to play, doesn't have to be an animation. And you've seen it, for example, if I go here, then you can see like in the cursor, like there is some text that's appearing, and it's something actually I do with this in transition. I'd show it to you in the code directly. So it's something that's right there. Okay. You can see that this is my Svelte component. Whenever the cursor, so I made like the state of the cursor globally because it can be called from anywhere. And whenever it receives like a title, I can open here. Like I split the title because I want to animate it like letter by letter. So I split like the string into like different characters, and I put them in spans so I can animate them. And here you have like the keyword that I talked about. So whenever this gets added to the DOM, then it will call the labeling function. And I have the labeling function here. So it receives the node on which it's attached to. here I can just select all the characters that I want because this is based on what I called before. So I select every span, and then I have my function with green sock where I select those letters and I move them from I translate them from +15 to 0. So you have this this effect, and like the effect is staggered, so they all start one after the other. It's not like all one block, but it's one after the other. And so this is like my twin made with gzap. But what SvelteKit is expecting is like that you, in the function you call, you have a return object in which you can pass in like the delay. So after how long after the DOM, or how long after it's added in the DOM, the function is called, the animation is called. You can add an easing that's already included in Svelte, but because I already have an easing in my function here, I want like the animation to play linearly because I handle the easing elsewhere. I can pass in the duration that I set in my twin with gzap. So the only downside is here it's in seconds, but SvelteKit expects milliseconds, so that's why I have to make the multiplication. So sometimes I had like to work a little around to see to really fine tune the stuff. And you return also like a tick line, which is a method, and what it does is it's going from 0 to 1, following like the easing, following the duration that you give it. And because I want my twin to play, I set like the progress from 0 to 1, and then the animation plays following every parameters that's set here. You can also have an out function whenever you want like to the element is going out of the DOM, but I didn't put it here because I didn't need to. So this is, I think, quite convenient. Somehow I try to have like only to do it only with CSS, but the animation didn't play, so I don't really understood why. But when I used SvelteKit properties while using SvelteKit, then of course everything works properly, and you can make this. Yeah, this works for every type of elements that you add to the DOM or that you remove. Yeah, the little feedbacks that I have that I can share with while I did this website is that the on navigating function gets triggered on all pages or components. So before I thought if I go from page A to page B, it will only get triggered on page A and page B, but actually it gets triggered everywhere. So I have some animations running from page C that I don't know where it's coming from. So that's why you have to check like where you're coming from to which URL if the parameters are the same. Also, yeah, the Svelte action are called when the options are changed. So I talked before about this low quality image that didn't get replaced when the props change. But since now you changed like the option as well, you pass to the action, then it gets called again. And also something that I find a little annoying, but I'm expecting perhaps some answers to this, is I used to work with folders and like index.js file. And once you import like the folder, it directly detects the index.js file and it's taking it. And I had errors so many times because when I want to import a component, I have to call like /grid/grid.svelte. But perhaps there is some stuff we can find to fix this. Yeah, there is. And more overall, the feedbacks is that the dev server is super fast. That's really it's really nice to use coming from Next.js. I don't need to explain more, but this is like super fast, and also you directly have the network address. So it shows me both like I work the website or like the local server is available on localhost /3000, and also like my network address. So For example, if I take my phone and I type in my, and they are both connected to the same Wi-Fi, I can see the website on my phone directly. And this is, of course, when you do front-end development, you always want to see on your phone what it looks like. And what I really appreciate is the light feeling of SvelteKit, that it's super easy to use. You don't feel like there is like some magic tricks behind or some big black box where some stuff are happening and you don't really know where you go or what you get, or like you never question really your results if you follow the documentation. And it's more, like the developer experience is much nicer than React, I can say, because I used React quite a lot. And there is no problem of re-rendering, and you don't know why it's re-rendering, and then you get some results, some unexpected results, and your head get super crazy. So that's more the experience with React. So yeah, that's wrapping up my talk, and feel free to ask some question. Is there any question? Yeah?
Are you planning on pushing to the browser history or altering it on interaction?
What do you mean?
So when you're navigating through the pictures,
yeah,
are you pushing to the browser history, or what happens when?
Okay. Yeah, this I could do now. Now it's not just some page, but like for SEO purpose, I could create like a custom page for this.
Is the question, these pictures are over on the website? Mm. If it's over on the website, I think it's already going through browser history.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, the question regarding this gallery here,
yeah, it's
or the whole website.
It's behaving like I expected this.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's not really a question. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I have.
I was just wondering about the Spanify function.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Is that something that's like built in? See it where you put it.
Yeah, it's not something that's built in. It's part of like some helpers that I use, and yeah, it's this function. Yeah, so like there is like I take the string and then I check every character, and it depends if I want like how many spans do I want, depending on the animation. And then it's returning me like you have one word, you have one span per word, and then per letter you can have one span too. And this is something I added lately because I had some problem. I did a website that was in Chinese, and like the split didn't work properly on some characters. That's what I had to change some stuff and adapt it. Yeah.
So you're kind of building your own library of helper functions for future projects.
Yeah. This is something I reuse through like every project. I mean, especially like the Spanify is super convenient for projects like this. But I have this for text, but also for like some mathematic question if I want to like lerp a value, and not for like when I want to animate and make some easings and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, I see you use GSET because probably you have experience with GSET. Would you be able to achieve similar or the same result just using Svelte animations? Or like what can't you do with Svelte animations? Svelte transitions.
Because as far as I've seen, like Svelte transition is, I mean, like all the built-in are only like fade in, fade out, some stuff. So you're quite limited already.
Yeah.
You can use CSS animation. Yeah. Like when I did what I did here, you can like have a CSS, animation. So yes, you don't always need GZAP, definitely, but because I had like also like the slider at the beginning, and I wanted to tweak some value, because with GZAP you can basically, if you have an object with some value, you can tweak them any way you want. So when you use like something that's not really related to Svelte, it's really nice to have something to use. Yeah.
So for the 3JS things, or
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If I check,
I don't know, you're just using WebG on the right.
yeah, like for example, like the introduction timeline that you see here. Yeah, this is made with GZAP because I like the easing the curve, like the value that I update, and I have to pick some stuff here and there. Yeah, you need to have like some.
But theoretically, we could use this inside the, how's it called, the tween store, or how's it called in Svelte? There's this tween store that you can put different easings for the
In Svelte transition.
it's Svelte transitions.
Yeah, I think it's like here, like this that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can use you can make it with built-in animation.
So if we would have, for example, extended power3.out in Svelte easing, then maybe using GZAP wouldn't be even necessary. Or...
Yeah, like for example, I assume this could be like linear easing, but here you would put like something similar to this. You can try to find the middle point. I mean, yeah, with GZAP, of course, this is a simple example because it's like just a couple of characters that you animate like this. But if you want something like a bit more complex, you might need something like a library. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense in GZAP, right? That you line up like a bunch of promises, and then you kind of wait for one thing to stop, and you build out your timeline. I think that's like a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, for like the page transition, when you are waiting for a promise, you can have you make your whole timeline with GZAP, and it's returning a promise, and then you can be on top of that. Yeah.
Can you show us how the site looks on mobile?
Another tester.
Any other questions?
So I mean, it's working well as well.
You can pay now.
It still needs like a little some fine tuning for like a bit more animation, but yeah, basically it's the whole same thing. Yeah.
Can you show the grid again? So you kept the same number of columns? Right?
No, it's before I had 12, and here I have 8. Yeah, I have for mobile and desktop. I have different number of columns.
Right.
So whenever I switch, there is always like a breakpoint. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you have default values for the server-side rendering, right?
Yeah.
Do you experience any sort of flickering, or is it not noticeable when loading the page on like different viewports?
I don't notice some flickering. Only sometimes when I did like with the cursor and like this effect, sometimes I can see like something flickers.
Mm-hmm.
But when I load it, like client side, there is no flickering. No.
Because probably also you fade it in by the time it's not visible, and then visible flicker probably happens in the background. So if you refresh, its opacity is 0 probably at the beginning of the
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even see it.
Yeah, I mean, this you might flicker like this, or
It's probably not flicker like this, but I mean, if you assume you set the defaults to like a desktop page,
yeah,
and you load it on mobile, then there would be like a frame potentially where it shows the desktop page.
yeah.
But if you have animations like these, they hide it really nicely.
Yeah.
Put animation.
Yeah. It's part of the.
You know how to do flickering.
Yeah, it's part of the overall package.
Nice.
Yeah. Some other question?
I think you're very well aware how you present the fonts and everything. How do you make sure that they are loaded on the first page then without any font? How do you load them?
Good question. I mean, here there is no problem because of course I have the fonts and they are cached already.
Just have a really long preloader.
Use animations.
No, I just have. I think in terms of font, I just use something like this, like the font display fallback, but nothing.
This is local font, so it will be in SSR.
Yeah, if it's if you use the local, so if the font is already on the machine, then the font is not loaded by the.
They definitely don't have basil growth.
I think you choose your fonts very precisely, because that's how I imagine you design your websites. And that's fonts that's usually not on the device of the user.
Yeah.
There is some loading shenanigans going on.
But it's probably because there is loading animation in the beginning we don't see, and this is great. I guess
That's very clever.
Yeah. Thank you. it's not really the purpose, but it solves a lot of problems.
I mean, then you just have to load the images for the preloader, which is also like.
Yeah.
So,
But like even like the images here, like you have they are preloading while you see the logo, and then you have the animation that's kicking in. Yeah. And I also I don't know how much images there is on the slider, but like many. But I don't wait until all of them are loaded, so I start like playing the animation. I think I load only like the first 6 that are on the first that you see at first, and then like the rest is loading in the background.
And you see the logo while you wait first 6 or.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if the internet is slow, you'll see a logo for longer.
Yeah, this is something. Yeah, I could add like some progress bar or
it's
something,
fine,
but
it's super fast anyway. But I was just curious.
yeah. Any other question? Yeah.
How did you do the slider? Did you do this yourself or use some kind of library?
Uh,
I mean the carousel, like moving image carousel.
Yeah. I mean, the library I used is 3GS. Actually, it doesn't need to be anything 3D. But at the beginning, I was hoping to have something a bit more tweaky, but the client didn't accept. So this is like I have a slider with real images and titles in the DOM, and then I get like the images and their position, and I make the 3D scene on top of that, and you don't see the images of the DOM, but actually the ones in the canvas. And before, I had like some stuff where when you scroll. So when it's like this is too much, but it's always nice to have little organic feeling. But when I showed the website, it didn't go that much. So it doesn't need to be like full 3D, but like you can do something like in 2D. Yeah. But it's homemade. But I use a GZAP to actually calculate like when the picture goes out of the screen, how much I have to send it back there, so they are all staying aligned, and no matter how you scroll, they all have like their own function, image per image, like how much they need to translate before going back at the end, and then you can have this infinite loop that works in both direction.
How do you get that? Like, how do you use the regular scroll interaction, or like how does it work?
Yeah. I mean,
usually the page would like try to scroll beyond the. Or like, wouldn't you have like overscroll when you scroll?
It's because I set like overflow hidden on the HTML or on the body, so it takes like you don't have overscroll. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the scroll gesture.
I mean, it's the wheel event. It's not the scroll because you can't, if there is no scroll bar, you can't scroll. But it's just like the wheel event. So whenever you have the mouse, or the touch event too. Yeah.
Thank you.